DIY audio guy here, bringing you another video in my three-way front stage build. In the last video I showed you the amp rack. In this video we're going to start installing speakers. I'm going to give you a link to the playlist so you can go back and learn about the speakers I'm using and see the amp rack assembly. So let's get some work done. Let's get started on the dash. There are factory locations on the dash for the left, right, and center. When these trucks first came out in 2000, they came standard with an Alpine system that included an external amplifier and speakers in these locations. Now that sounds like a good idea, but makes a simple head unit upgrade difficult for a DIYer. This one just has holes in the dash, no speakers or external amplifier. This entire piece needs to come off in order to access the factory speaker locations. It's held into place with some clips, so we just need to take a plastic panel tool and start prying. Be very careful, these panels are very brittle and they get more brittle with age. It's very easy to break. Always start on the ends and release those clips first and work your way across the dash. If you start in the middle, this happens. If I had paid a shop to do this, I would be pretty pissed off over that little blemish. But us DIY guys just have to live with our mistakes and try to learn from them, so I'm going to just move on and pop out the rest of the clips. Yep, learning from my mistakes. There's another set of clips up close to the windshield. Just give the panel a tug starting on one side and working your way across and it'll be free. Pull the piece out of the truck, set it in the bed of the truck so you don't step on it and ruin it. I'm going to run some speaker wire up into the dash, so I'm removing the door sill trim panels and the kick panels. On the fronts, this is all just one piece. You just need to start at the rear of the piece with a panel tool and start releasing the clips. After you release the clips along the bottom of the door sill, you just tug it backward and release the kick panel clips. I'm not a professional cameraman and it's really hard to get a good shot of this. It seems like 90% of the footage I capture is just my rear end, but I'm learning as I go and slowly getting better. You can help by hitting that subscribe button and giving my video a like. It doesn't cost you a thing and the positive feedback keeps me motivated. The rear piece is mostly the same, just pop the clips. The piece will not come out of the truck 100% unless you pull the back seat, unhook the seat belts, and remove the panels on the C-pillar. So you just have to jam the wire in as best you can. Whenever I have scrap material laying around, I like to make speaker rings of various sizes. That way I had them if I need them. So off camera I made some cardboard mock-ups and transferred those shapes to some ABS plastic. Now I'm going to transfer the inner diameter of this ring to that ABS plastic. Before I do that, I'm going to take my calipers and double check the cutout diameter, the bolt circle diameter, and the overall outside diameter for this custom bracket. Let's head over to the router and knock that out real quick. I did a quick test fit of the adapter and I was worried about the clearance, especially after I put some gasket tape on the adapter. So I ordered some thinner gasket tape and some 1/8 inch ABS, and I'm just going to transfer these to the thinner material. And I rough cut everything with a jigsaw before I bring it over to the router table. That extra clearance made a huge difference. I stuck the old 1/4 inch brackets to the new 1/8 inch material and routed out exact copies using a spiral cut flush trim bit. Spiral cut bits work a whole lot better than just plain flush trim bits. I used double-sided carpet tape to stick the templates together. It's an effective and affordable way to attach templates temporarily when routing. I'm going to give you some affiliate links to these items down in the description. I don't make any money off these videos, but it does take money to make the videos. Purchasing through affiliate links is a great way for you to help out, especially if it's something that you're going to buy anyway. But if you don't want to do that, you can show your support by subscribing, commenting, and liking. I'm a big fan of test fitting, so I went ahead and transferred the screw holes into these new brackets and then did a test fit in the truck to make sure I had them just right. Now that the fabrication work is done, let's start wiring up the speakers. I'm going to start by crimping on some connectors to the tweeters. I like doing this so I can easily disconnect things if I ever need to take the dash apart again. I get these connectors at the auto parts store down the street. These are insulated and fit together snug for a watertight connection. This is the kind of thing I like to buy locally so I can put my hands on the product and know what I'm getting. I am getting to the point where I really need to start buying these things in bulk. So if you can recommend some 1/4-inch connectors like these on the internet, please let me know about it in the comments. The next tool on my wish list is a decent set of crimpers. These are just not very good. I couldn't possibly recommend them. For the mids, I'm going to solder on some pigtails to the speaker terminals. I've always had bad luck with the slide-on speaker terminal connectors. They never seem to fit right, and they're always just a general pain in the rear end. We'll put some heat shrink on this, and then I'm going to crimp on some connectors to these pigtails. I bundled up my 2 runs of speaker wire in some braided sleeving. I picked a dark gray color. I think the box said it was carbon for the driver's side. So I ran 2 sets of 16 gauge wire, 2 pairs through that gray stuff. And then I used white for the passenger side. Now I need to crimp on some more of these 1/4-inch spade connectors. I'm using 16 gauge wire, and both the blue and the red connectors will fit that wire size. I'm putting the blue connectors on the mids and the red ones on the tweeters. That way I can't get the wires crossed up if I ever need to do any more work on the system. Now I'm going to mount the mids to the brackets. There's no gaskets on the underside of these speakers, so I start by wrapping the speaker ring with the gasket material. And this material is 1/16 of an inch thick and it's 1/2 inch wide. It's the thinnest stuff that I can find on Amazon. I'll give you an affiliate link to that as well. Next, I put some gasket tape on the underside of the adapter. I pre-drilled some holes and I mount the speakers with some screws. I went ahead and ran the speaker wires. It was getting late in the day, so I set the camera aside so I could get some work done. I did get some footage of the mid going into the dash. It's not very good footage. The best angle I could get was looking down through the windshield. So I plugged the connectors in and then loosely screwed the mid-range speaker into place. I then ran the tweeter wires up next to a nearby defrost vent and kind of wrapped them around the backside of the speaker. And now I'm ready to hook the tweeter up to that, and I can start putting the dash back in. I have a 90-degree adapter for my drill that I bought just so I could do this type of thing. It's still really hard to get to, and the big bulky 20-volt drill doesn't really help with that. It also has way too much juice to do this job. If you're going to be an installer, you should probably invest in 12-volt power tools. They're not as powerful, but you don't need a lot of power for screwing things like this down in a car. 12-volt drills are lighter and less bulky, so they're going to work better for this kind of thing. This looks a lot easier than it is. I've got about 20 minutes of footage just from this angle. Nothing is happening in at least half of it as I work on the other side of the vehicle. I've edited this down to about 2 minutes and 35 seconds of meaningful action. It was basically just 20 minutes of wiggling wires and adjusting the dash until I could get things to fit back together. These tweeters came with some double-sided tape, and I stuck those down to the dash after I had everything all wired up and plugged in back together. There's one last thing I need to do before I can see if everything works. This compact amplifier that I'm using here has a harness for speaker connectors, so I need to solder in speaker wires to the harness. In addition to that, I need to connect some capacitors to the tweeters. These are air motion transformers. They don't work like a traditional tweeter. Instead of a dome that moves back and forth, there's this accordion-like folded sheet that kind of pumps air in order to make sound. These things are supposed to be very good at producing high frequencies, but it turns out they're actually going to show the amplifier a dead short if you run low frequencies through them. So you need a capacitor to keep from smoking your amplifier. Now this is probably not the best solution, because if I want to rewire this, I'm going to have to cut the connection and I will eventually run out of wire in the harness. But that's off in the future. I'm not going to worry about that now. Earlier in the video when I was taking the dash apart, I mentioned how fragile and brittle the plastic gets. Well, I probably should have paid closer attention to my own warnings to be careful, because when I put the dash panel back in, I got a little bit aggressive, kind of pounded it back into the clips a little bit, and I managed to break some of the plastic grill that goes over one of the defroster vents. So that means this piece is going to have to be replaced at some point, so that was a little bit on the frustrating side. Installing those 4 little speakers was a ton of work. It was also a ton of fun. It was a great adventure. Thank you for watching my video and joining me on my adventure. There's a whole lot of work left to do. Now that we got those 4 speakers installed, we still have 2 speakers to put in the door, and we have to go through and tune the entire system. Tuning a 3-way front stage is a lot of work, takes a lot of time to figure out how to get the sound just right. And I'm going to take you with me as I figure out how to make it sound awesome. So this is the DIY Audio Guy, and I'm signing out.